All right, so now we're going to get started with our next keynote panel. So I'm going to ask the panelists to please join me up on stage. Tito, I'm going to sit down here. Brian, where's Rana? Hello, Brian.
Good to see you.
Yeah, why don't you sit there, Brian? Just going to... Okay. Good to see you. Hey, John, good to see you. Okay. Daniel, is Rana here? No? Okay. So, unfortunately, Rana Ghosh is not here. As some of you may be aware, there's a massive hurricane heading for Florida, and Spirit Airlines is headquartered in the Fort Lauderdale area. So we weren't sure if Rana was going to be able to make the journey here or not, and clearly he needs to stay at the head office, which is understandable. So let's just all hope that he and his colleagues remain safe. Let's get started as we talk about NDC and where we go with this. You know, rethinking retailing around NDC and the content strategy, how airlines differentiate offers, how we develop new bundles, how we evolve ecosystems. We got a good start earlier with Tito, and thank you for that. So here's the first question. Has NDC proven to be worthwhile thus far for airlines? We have spent a lot of time working on this. Is it worth it? Or does it show signs of being worth it? So, Celia, I'll start with you.
Yes, okay, thank you. I think that the answer is totally worthy. The point is that this is something that is taking time. So I understand that to see the value is not something that was so obvious some years ago. Because to move forward with NDC, we need a lot to be done. No? We need the functionality ready, we need all the capabilities, we need the providers also ready. So I think that it has been a long trip to have NDC, but now, and in Iberia definitely, but not only in Iberia, I see also in other airlines here, we have also the experience that you have been explaining before. We are in the momentum in which we can bring the value to the customer, developing new product, because at the end this is the point, to bring new content, to be fast in the way that we put the content and we offer the content to our customers. So definitely to get that big advantage to build new products is what we were waiting for, and we are already on that point, no? That we are creating content, specific content, and showing the value. But totally, all the ecosystem needs to move, and it has to take time. Is the point?
Right. Okay. Tito, what's the perspective of Air France KLM?
I think my mic went off, so I have a new one.
That's right.
No, I think we make progress, but of course, NDC was done to create value for the customers and value for us as an airline. That we measure internal Air France KLM via what we call an upsell KPI. So do customers really buy up to our premium products, yes or no? This percentage is still relatively low in NDC. However, it shows the biggest growth compared to other channels. So the year-over-year growth of upsell, customers buying something more than just a light fare from a ticket from A to B, that percentage is growing significantly. So there are signs that it starts to pay off, but not yet there.
Okay, all right. So let's move on. A big promise of NDC and retailing is the ability for airlines to differentiate themselves. We know that from our research, 50% or more of airline passengers agree with the statement, all airlines are alike. We don't want that to happen. We don't, I think even Air France and KLM don't want the two airlines to be viewed as alike. You want to have your own personality. Within IAG, Iberia wants to have its own personality. So as we look at this, how can airlines use NDC and retailing to differentiate themselves more effectively? Brian?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Henry. You know, I think if we take a look at the way that a lot of airlines got out of the gates with NDC, a big focus was, you know, do we take the stick or the carrot approach? You know, do we actually provide an incentive or do we apply a surcharge? But the airlines that we've been speaking to are really showing us that content differentiation is the biggest single driver of adoption of NDC. And I think for the airlines that we work with, you know, a big challenge is how do they actually get their IT working with their systems to enable them to start really differentiating, and differentiating on price, differentiating on content, whether it be ancillaries or bundles. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges. So with the Datalex platform, what we've been focusing on is enabling airlines to effectively take that control in terms of how they can create that differentiation without having to go through a huge IT business case, by actually utilizing a business user interface that allows them to make those changes and get them into market quickly. One of the airlines that we've been working with was taking up to 3 months to set up a promotion. The average launch of a new ancillary would take up to 12 months, you know, and it would take a serious investment business case. So the ability to experiment often hasn't been there. And I think that for those airlines deciding on which platforms they want to utilize to enable them to take on these capabilities, that ability to experiment, get solutions into market, play around with differentiating your content and see what sticks is really, really powerful.
John, what's the perspective at Flyer?
Well, I mean, our perspective is very aligned with, you know, what was said, right? The customer wants a differentiated experience, but they also want a personalized experience. We want to deliver a retailing experience that allows them to get like the right offers at the right time throughout the customer journey. And that could only be done with a modern, you know, kind of a distribution system that brings in a whole bunch of partners that could be offered at the right time. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, what the customers really want, but if you think about it, we offer a very non-dynamic, very standard bundle set of ancillaries for everybody. With all the data that we have, why can't we use appropriate techniques to offer a very personalized experience at the right time through the customer journey that allows the conversion to be much, much higher? So our view is, you know, we offer an amazing NDC gateway, but for us it's more about the retailing and the thought process around how do we create a customer experience that is very valuable. Like, think about something like loyalty, right? Everybody talks about loyalty. What makes loyalty sticky? As a flyer, I happen to fly one airline a lot because they dominate in the city I live in. But you know what? It's very hard for me to, you know, pass up free ancillaries like Clear, you know, free Clear, you know, free lounge passes, you know, extra bags, things of that nature. My willingness to pay to that airline because they understand me and what they offer me at the time, I mean, I pay a lot more for that airline than maybe another airline for a similar flight. So I think this ability to like use these technologies to do a few things, right? Like, primarily we should talk a lot about diversifying revenue, right? We should really think about the revenue opportunity that's available using NDC, using ancillaries, and being very predictive using the data that we get. The airlines are very rich in customer data, probably one of the richest industries in the world. They know where their customers fly, when they fly, how they fly, who they fly with, what they enjoy when they get there. I think all that could help us, you know, really create a customer experience and make it's a win-win, right? The airlines can absolutely convert and get a higher revenue per customer, and the customer has a much better experience.
Tito, it looks like...
I wanted to react to the data part. I think it's a very interesting one. Yes, we have a lot of data, but sometimes maybe a bit too much that we don't know where to look or what the quality of that data is. So I think there we have a lot of challenges. Next to that, there's also a big challenge on the offer data. We often talk about offers all the time, offer management and offer and order. But you need to have the offer data well structured in place. And then direct online and NDC are, of course, very different. You need to store this data and you need to start using the data. But if you want to use it, you need to have multiple offers. So if you have via the NDC channel only offer light to everyone around the world, there's not much use in storing offer data, let alone what value you can get of it. So I think there's two things: getting that data in, and that requires also work internally to properly store that architecture, have that in place, and then using it is something still there. My department is called offer management, but I don't master the offer data yet. So that's another track which I think is very, very important.
Right. One of the challenges I think is also, capturing the data and associating it with the passenger. Some research that we've done shows airlines don't always do this. Even with the base fare that the customer is buying, they may not associate it with the specific passenger, especially if that person's not in the loyalty program. So I'm wondering, what do we do to get around that? How do we get better at not just capturing data, but associating it with a specific individual, independent of loyalty program membership, so that you can use it to be more effective in your businesses?
Yeah, so I think for the seat bundle, we do it. If a customer logs in, especially our loyalty program, we adapt the seat bundle depending on who the customer is.
Right.
So there we have our first, let's say, personalization or contextualization, what have you. But of course, going a step further, I think is a next challenge. Like, is it a PNR of 2, night flight? I think there's many things to do to adapt your offer. But it requires two things. You need to have multiple offers, and you need to have the proper data in place, and then you can start combining it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Tito made a good point in terms of making sure that you've got multiple offers. The way that we view it, just in terms of the way that we work with our customers and with our platform, is we take a look at really kind of two data types. The first being contextual data. So there's a hell of a lot of information you can infer about the customer based on the search. So if, for example, we've got 2 or more adults traveling with 1 or more children, you've got the opportunity to offer them a family bundle, that includes a large bag. So that's one really easy example. The other type of data that we work with is what we call persona data, where you'd actually take a look at and identify a flag from a customer that would allow you to unlock certain benefits or certain dynamic bundle types. So that's the ability to dynamically bundle for a certain persona of characters that could either be unlocked by a loyalty tier level or some other alternative flag that you would get from a customer data platform or CDP. Where we're ultimately going is to figure out a world where we are able to both dynamically bundle an offer and dynamically price an offer based on multiple input factors. And that's where we're ultimately working towards with our airline customers.
Yeah.
That's actually a good segue, because one question that we've got is do we need to think about new revenue management strategies as we move into this world of retailing? We've been revenue managing at the seat level,
yes,
on the flight or itinerary level, but do we need to rethink this as we are starting to think of bundles, as well as maybe even the ancillary products themselves? John?
Absolutely. We have to start thinking about customer-centric revenue management, not flight-centric revenue management, right? Ancillaries is a significant amount of revenue. Dynamic bundling and unbundling of ancillaries at the right time in the customer journey could actually and will create significant value. So we have to think about revenue management optimization around the customer, not the flight, not the seat. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's everything else that you have to think about. So is the ability to get better data, its ability to mine that data, its ability to start really predicting customer behavior, offering the right offers at the right time, managing that from a revenue management perspective or revenue optimization perspective is absolutely going to be necessary. And I think that's where everything's heading.
Yeah, I think maybe to add to that, I think it's optimization per product. I think revenue management is very good in optimizing our core product, flying from A to B and making sure flights are full and at the highest price. But I think if you start optimizing baggage, lounge, seating, sky priority, there are other factors in play. Currently, we are not managing it. We don't have data how many people make use of the sky priority. All we know that there are many people who are sky priority because there are too many more sky priority members than non-sky priority members. So I think we need to start collecting that data, offering those products, and managing those products as such. And that's a different optimization challenge than the core revenue management optimization challenge.
Yeah.
And I think every product has its own super challenge. Seating is different than the lounge. Sky Priority is different than Wi-Fi. I think they all have their own specificities, own pricing at different moments in time. And yeah, you need to deal with that.
Yeah.
Celia, what's the Iberia view?
No, I was going to say that also the point is also how to combine all the different products, because at the end is, okay, we develop a lot of a la carte ancillaries, but then how we can mix and offer exactly what the customer is looking for. I think that we have already some examples of doing that we are doing with all the possibility to buy the different ancillaries, the additional price point. But it's really important that to continue moving forward, we will be able to develop that bundles and put them on the market, that bundles on that dynamic, because the customers and the agencies need to see the value of everything that we are doing, because sometimes it's like, okay, we are thinking on the future, but where is the reality of that? No, so I think the combination already of different ancillaries and the bundles is something that we are offering. We are offering in Iberia, definitely for the corporates, specific bundles, depending on if they need a luggage or not, the kind of traffic, the kind of trip that they are going to do. But we need to continue moving forward on that direction. But sometimes for me, the key point is to think in the future and the new things that we need to develop with the data, the combination of the data to build more dynamic offers, but also some product that should be already there, like the bundles and the series a la carte.
So let me ask, one product area that seems to be getting some attention are these subscription products. Wizz Air has just sold like an unlimited flight product, and some different airlines sell other subscriptions. As we think about how we bring new products to market, sometimes revenue management is the department of no. They're like, no, we're worried about dilution. We're worried that it's going to, cannibalize stuff. How do we make the arguments to say, look, come around and see it from our side, from the product side, and we believe we can make the argument that you will see it's actually additive, not dilutive.
I think it probably starts with a mindset change, right? I mean, Tito was telling us earlier how they basically structured an entirely new department that had elements of RevMan, elements of distribution, and elements of digital in terms of how you're actually conceiving of these product types. And I heard a wonderful story yesterday about how Ryanair changes its view of itself, not just as a low-cost airline, but as the biggest retailer of ham and cheese paninis in Europe, And I think that kind of different framing of, the value that you're bringing to the customer is probably the key starting point for something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to say as well, I think data, proving it you make money, or proving it that you are capable of delivering something which the customer really wants. I think that those are things to convince the dilution no department, which they are for good reasons. But I think, you need to fight them with their own weapons, as to say.
But I think that is key. What you have been explaining also before in the presentation that you have been done, that we need to work all of us aligned. It's not just revenue management. You were saying also revenue management, it's distribution, it's digital. It's also the sales team that need to bring the feedback from the customer, what they need. In everything that we are doing right now also in Iberia, we work totally transversal between the different departments in the moment that we launch a new product. Because we need to see the different angles, and at the end it's not what you dilute, it's how much you are going to bring when you start to jump from a fare to another fare, doing an upsell. We need to look at the product from a more global view to bring finally more value. Also thinking how we are going to get loyalty from the customer, to offering different attributes, how we are going to be able to bring the customer with us. Something could be a dilute at the beginning, but then the global business is going to be more. So it's always a transversal view what we are developing right now.
Maybe a nice example. We introduced seat selection in business class.
Right.
I remember the day I proposed it, they were looking at me like, well, good luck, you will never succeed.
I mean, charging for seat selection.
Yes, so paying for seat selection in business class. And I think we try to address it from customer perspective, operational perspective, and of course also revenue perspective. Yeah. And what we learned is that the moment you open up and you become transparent in your policy, customers also like it, because some people are willing to pay for their preferred seating and not wait till the last moment and hope to have a nice lady at the desk who say, oh, I have your 1A seat available for you. If you can deliver the promise in an early stage, I can give you seat 1A, are you willing to pay for it? Yes, I am. And it gives me confidence and it increases my NPS. And you make money. So it's and of course.
It's a change in the mindset, not
it's
to
a mindset.
offer.
But you need to look at it, and you need to focus on the data, you need to use it, and then you can make those steps. And then you have your proof points like, hey, this is working.
No, I was going to say that some of the main difficulties is also the implementation, that you were also touching that, no? Because the idea is to offer as much option as we can, because the customer could be different, and it's just to understand what they need and what they want. Then the challenge is to deliver that, and this is where we need to continue putting a lot of focus in the operational piece, that sometimes is not easy, because we can have the system, but then what to do if the aircraft change and you have a lot of people that have paid for the seating and now you need to move them. I think that then still we have a big challenge that we need to continue working to bring what we have committed to the customer.
Yeah. Celia, that's actually a good segue to the next question I've got, which is EDIFACT hangs over us like, as an industry, like a dark cloud. You know, it limits what we can do. We've learned to work within the confines of EDIFACT, but it clearly is not as flexible as what NDC will offer. So are there ways for airlines to think about minimizing the limitations that EDIFACT poses, along with any other legacy technologies that may be in their organizations?
So maybe I can take that one. You know, I think what we've been doing over the years is working with multiple airlines in terms of helping them put together their digital experiences for their customers and building out internet booking engines. So what we've done is we've done a fair level of orchestration of the underlying PSS to help airlines get around about some of those legacy constraints. In terms of where we're going with NDC, I think that, you know, that's probably been the biggest leap that the airline industry has made in terms of moving beyond EDIFACT. And, you know, I think that we're starting to see a certain level of maturation with NDC. So we're not necessarily seeing the adoption levels that we possibly would have hoped for across the industry right now, but the maturity is coming in other ways. Maturity is coming in terms of the level of systems upgrades and integrations that the industry has put in place, the way that processes and structures are changing in airlines, as evidenced by the examples that Tito was giving earlier, by the level of content differentiation that's happening in the market. And we're starting to see the early stages of airlines taking a look at how they can put together pilots around interline with offers and orders, you know, which is really kind of addressing that last legacy constraint in terms of how we actually move beyond EDIFACT as an ecosystem as well as an industry.
John, what perspective?
I agree with Brian. I think, you know, look, EDIFACT isn't going away anytime soon, and we have to learn to coexist, but at the same time take advantage of the new things that NDC offers. And back to the business case discussion, you know, the good news is it's not going to be very hard to convince people with higher margin ancillary products that the business value is there, and the work has to be done to get there. But, you know, there is going to be no magic day that everybody's going to wake up and you know, EDIFACT's going to be gone. I think it's going to be a transition process. I think it's going to happen over time. And I think it's going to be based on the value that, you know, we could offer to the customers and the value that, you know, the airlines can get from doing it. And it's like anything else, it's going to be a transition process.
Yeah. But I really think that customers and the agencies need to be the value. For me, this is the key point to do the change to NDC, because if not, it's always easier to maintain what you have. No, to change is always an effort for everybody, and I try to when I put on the perspective of the agencies, I fully understand that they don't want to go through that direction at the beginning, but then if you give them good reason, and the good reason is the possibility to be more flexible, as we were saying, to bring the digital not only in the airlines in our web, but also to the indirect channel, there is a lot of value because it's to adapt the product to the necessities of the customers. And I think that if we are able to show that, the channel is going to move. It's moving indeed. I see a big change in the last 2 years in the level of adoption. I think that if I talk about Iberia in the Spanish market, 90% of the leisure is already in NDC, almost 30% in the corporate and growing. So I see really that the change is happening. The only thing is that we need to be able to provide to the market and to the customer the value of that. But if they see the value is the content, the flexibility, the speed, they move.
Yeah, and I think it's also change management of the companies themselves. If you have a workforce who is used to work on EDIFACT for many years already, you don't change them one day or the other. Hey, tomorrow we're gonna use a display. It's like, well, no, I'm trained in this. This is my second language. I can dream the code and everything. I know how it works. I'm not gonna change suddenly to a new display. Give me some time, please. So I think that is also an important point.
I think that's actually a really important point, which is we talk about all of these decisions and opportunities that NDC creates, and yet we also have to remember that we've got colleagues who are used to a certain way of doing things, certain processes. We also have travel agencies, whether they're corporate travel management companies, retail agencies, online travel companies, whatever, who are part of this mix. How do we go about getting the cooperation of the valued travel partners, travel sellers, to work with us and make sure that they are selling things the way we want to? You know, we have responsibility to them, of course, but how do we get them to come along and join the ride?
Yeah, you were saying it's a bit the stick and the carrot. I think that's something we use often as well. I think there, of course, it's important, I would say, to look at the agents or at your partners in a way that you're really partnering. Do they treat your customers well? Do they work along? Do they show the offers you want them to offer? And then you come at a certain point in time, you also need to take decisions in how and what content you are giving to who and why, which is not an easy discussion, but there are many factors at play in that area.
Yeah,
but I think that is
absolutely
a way forward. I think.
I mean, I agree with you completely, Tito. I think that one of the ways that you can drive adoption is make it about their customers. Make sure that their customers get access to the best content through that channel. Make sure that their customers are supported so they can still service their customers through that channel, and make sure that they can still give the same level of duty of care to their customers.
Right. And there's also got to be the same business model. There's a certain business model where there is quite a bit of revenue coming from the GDS to these TMCs. So we have to figure that one out too, right? There has to be a reason for them to move, and the business model has to be the equivalent, if not better. So there's work to be done there.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I think we also have to acknowledge something Brian touched on, which is the importance of being able to service this, right? We saw what happened in the U.S. when one airline, very aggressively pulled a bunch of fares out of the GDSs and tried to force a new way of doing business on travel agencies, and they basically said no. They actually said no way with the third word interspersed between no and way. One of those words that your mothers would make you wash your mouth out with soap. But, and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars flowed to other airlines.
That's right.
So we, I think, have to be mindful that if we're going to force change or want to have change made, that we have to be there with the service and support to make that possible.
It goes back to it's going to be a transition. The business model is as important as any technology decision. Everything has to fall in line because, why did that happen, right? I mean, it happened because somebody made a bad bet on what the outcome was going to be because the underlying reality wasn't covered for that. And it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work has to be done so that move can be made and can be made successfully. And I don't think that's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take some time.
I think that on this, the first point is to give a reason to move, and the reason to move is the content. This is totally clear. The corporate, the customer need to ask for that because they understand that they can get something better. You need to develop content. And when you have that, the other aspect that you need to consider to make the agencies move is that the capabilities need to be ready. From my view, and you have talked also about that, I think that we need to also help the ecosystem to move and the agencies to move and sit down with them and listen what they need. Because in some cases, maybe we think that we are ready and that we have everything that is necessary to do the booking process, whatever it would be. But maybe they have something specific that they need, and we have not developed that. So to sit down, to listen to them, and to understand the necessities and develop the capabilities, I think is key. It's not something that is going to happen because we say tomorrow is going to happen. You have explained there are examples in which probably if you go very fast and very quick, it's not going to work. You need to move all the ecosystem, and we need, at least in the case of Iberia, we are fully clear that we need also to go with the market. We need to help the market. We need to work with the aggregators, sit down together, the aggregator, the agency, the corporate, us, and see what they want. Is this what you need? Do we need to work to develop something and maybe we need to wait 1 month more? But just put in the focus and have everybody together working on the same direction. For me, this is the key point.
But maybe to add to that, there is something of tension. Of course, we need to do everything together.
Yes.
And ecosystem. On the other hand, everyone has his or her own business model, and you only want to change and to adapt if it's good for your own business model. And I think in the partnership, whoever you talk to, you need to be able to listen to each other. They need to listen to us.
Yeah,
like we
totally.
want something. If they don't listen, then there comes a point in time where you say, okay, but if you don't want to listen to us, then we're not going to listen to you. And so, and that is a bit of a tension where in the partnership, it's not all together, be happy and let's get out there. I think there's some real tough business negotiations where both sides will need to negotiate and be tough and say, no, this is our border, this is yours, and how is your partnership?
Yeah.
And what do you give and take, and how do you define that partnership? That's not something easy, and it's a challenge.
It's true that it's true that we have like different position. There is always some tension, but the final goal is the same one. That is to bring more value to the customer, put the customer in the center of everything. But to your point, I think that if we deliver the content, because of that I started on that point, if we are able to deliver new content and new product and personalized product and bundles, so if we are able to deliver what the customer is asking for, I think it's easier to move because at the end, all of us, the agency, the OVT, the aggregator that also wants the business, needs the necessity. So for me, is to work all together, but also to move in the benefit of the product and content that we need to deliver.
So both of you represent full-service carriers. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on what the full-service carrier sector of the industry should prioritize with their NDC development if they're aiming to compete with the budget airlines more.
I always comparing legacy versus low cost is always on the cost side. I think here you talk about value side. I think if you want to compete, doesn't matter who your competitor is. I think you just need to create value for the customer, and if you are able to create value, then you will get them. I think any company need to have a cost structure which is healthy. That doesn't make you, shouldn't go into different business models, etc. So in that sense, if you do NDC well, if you are able to bring the right products at the right time to your customers, I think you are able to distinguish yourself in such a way that you make it very easy for a customer to purchase something and to buy something what they really want. Then you are able to distinguish yourself.
Yeah. I think you've also got to get good at their game. I mean, one of the things that the low-fare carriers have been very good at is providing a la carte products, being very nimble and agile in terms of experimenting with new offerings. And at the same time, they've also been the pioneers in terms of non-GDS B2B distribution, in terms of getting that out there. So I think that a lot of what we're doing in terms of taking a look at new solutions for retailing, new solutions for distribution, is catering exactly to that.
Yeah, it's the exact same opportunity and the exact same challenge. It's just a different set of, maybe products and goals, between a full-service carrier and a low-cost carrier. But the challenge and the opportunity is exactly the same. And to Tito's point, it's all about the value. You just have to figure out who your customer is and what they're going to value and what you're going to bring to them, and how you could get the ecosystem to do that.
Tito, I'm curious, when you all were working on the seat bundles at Air France KLM, did you do any kind of testing with it, with a subset of customers to put it out there on the website or mobile app to just gauge reaction? One of the questions I'm wondering is, we are so rigid in so many ways we have to do business because of legacy systems. Do we have the ability to do the testing that you might want to as a business to see, is the offer appealing the way we want? Can people transact, buy it the way we want? Is it as easy to sell as we want?
Well, I think, of course, we had to choose which one to develop first.
Yeah.
We had data, of course, from our auxiliary that showing that there's quite a big appetite for seating and seating products, which we didn't offer in our branded fares, where we only had seat selection in there, but not economy comfort, not extra leg room, not dual seats. They were all not there. And we saw that a lot of customers were buying it after the purchase of tickets. So that made us believe that, there should be appetite if we're able to master it and to make it easier to buy it in one click. It would drive conversion. And of course, luckily enough, the first bundle, it did show that it is driving the increase of conversion of those seating products significantly. So in that sense, we got our proof points along the way, but beforehand we did have good indications that this would be a winner bundle to start with. So we use the data we have to say, okay, where is the appetite and what is a cumbersome flow currently, and where can we ease the flow by addressing that customer need?
Did you learn from this any ways to expedite bringing other ideas to the market?
Well, I think the soft bundle was a bit a jump in the ocean, where of course it was a new product. We didn't know the appetite. It's a difficult product. So here we started from scratch. But given where we are, sustainability context, it was more like, okay, we should be out there. Let's get this going. So it was not much of a data-driven approach, but more like a trend and what is coming. We need to be ready for this. But for the example, the family bundle I was talking about, we base that on data. We see that we are mainly focused on the PNR as one flow, and then if the PNR one works, then we are all good. But I think the family bundle is challenging us to say, okay, it's a PNR of 2, 3, or 4, or 5 with different needs, which we currently simply do not serve. So that makes sense to develop something in that area.
We're just a few months away from the start of the new year, and I'm just curious what you all think will be some of the big trends in the next year when it comes to NDC, what the next generation of NDC content will look like over the next year. Will it be vastly different from what we're seeing, more sophisticated, more robust, or will it be, frankly, just more of the same?
Well, I think for us, one of the key products that we're enabling for a number of our customers currently is our dynamically bundled air offers solution, which basically gives the airline the ability to take the right to fly and then bundle it with multiple different components to effectively create dynamic bundles. And to the point that you were making earlier with Tiddo, just around experimentation, it really gives the airline the ability to do that. And we can actually expose that to a specific cohort of a limited number of passengers, or we could potentially just run it on a single route or O&D combination so that it gives the airline the ability to actually see, well, what is the uptake going to be?
I think that, yes, we need to continue moving forward with the products and also to work more on the offer, how we are going to make more robust the offer. That still is a challenge. But we think just in next year, for me next year, one of the priorities is also to make the business segment to move to NDC, that still is a bit, it's not fully engaged. And I think we need to continue working in bringing them all the requirements that they have in terms of servicing, because if we want to move in a longer term view, we need also the business segment more involved. This means also fully the OBTs to be in, to be ready. So, yeah, for me the priority for next year would be more on that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with. I think we see that you're on OTAs and everyone, there's quite well connection to NDC. Main challenge indeed is on the corporate side, where I think steps are being made. So that is something which is coming. And while we are still busy on NDC, I think the other buzzword is One Order, which is out there, which will also for sure have its influence on what we do or the activities we have in the coming year. Depending on who you talk to, there's different levels of enthusiasm about it. But I think there's a lot to do on NDC still. And where the main challenge is indeed on the corporate side.
Do we need to stop thinking about NDC and One Order as separate? Are they really not two halves of the same coin?
They are connected.
Yeah. John?
I just wanted to go back to the previous question, right? I mean, if I think about next year, what's exciting to me is just the ecosystem is going to grow. The richness of the content of the offers is going to grow. It's not going to be just traditional seat and bag. It's going to be seat, bag, car, hotel, entertainment in New York City, intermodal with rail. The sky's the limit on what you can do. And if the platforms allow fast experimentation, ability to unbundle for the right person, if the data... We know that data is rich. Now there's a challenge to figure out how exactly to monetize that data, but I think that challenge is going to be something that over time will get overcome with new technologies, AI, machine learning, data analytics, things that are going to allow us to be more understanding of the customer journey. I'm really excited about what, as a customer, I can do with an airline and how I could build an experience that's going to be much more rich than I've ever built an experience before. It won't be, hey, I get on there, I get a flight, I just want a good seat and I'm done. It's going to be like, hey, I could tailor my whole travel. And I think that to me is really exciting as a customer, right? And I think it's also exciting for the airlines because, again, all these ancillary products, in theory, if they're not being delivered by the airline, have very higher margins. So that's a good thing. So that's what I'm excited about in the future for this.
Henry, I think that NDC and One Order are two sides of the same coin. I think even IATA is starting to sort of drop the NDC piece, and it's now distribution with offers and fulfillment with orders. And I think that that's really the two pieces. We can create fantastic offers. We can distribute them in any channel. But the challenge then is, once you really start getting creative with the offer, how do you fulfill on it? And that's where the order management piece comes in.
Celia, did you have a...
No, I think that,
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank the panel for a very, very wonderful conversation and sharing all of your great perspectives. We will now be breaking for lunch. There may be some other sessions happening in the other halls. We'll be back here at 2 p.m. with the start of the Customer Experience Summit. So with that, please join me in thanking the panelists. Thank you.